today is full moon. And in understanding what the full moon represents, the divine feminine. Because if we understand that the sun is a masculine energy, it burns with passion. The moon is then softer, it's the feminine energy. The moon then also being a feminine body is also the one that's governed with moving, the flows of the ocean. It is what controls the tides and the movement of the ocean. So the moon then is also embodied in the water, and all of those are feminine bodies. So if you've made the connection, clink, clink, hence the face. As part of my full moon ritual, I decided, because it's important for us to play around with how it is that we connect. Because the importance of any ritual that you do is to be able to actually set an intention, and beyond setting that intention is for it to become real. You must embody that intention. So for me, with this being winter, and that's about to go into, the winter solstice, which will be the darkest night, I decided that on the brightest night of this winter, I will also shine and embody the divine feminine, hence the face beat. This is my first time I've actually done a full face beat in my whole entire life. We're shooting and the video will come out, you'll see it. And Sandine is an amazing makeup artist. You can see face for the gods. So I was coached through it and walked through it, and this is like my result of my first face beat. And I'm very proud of it. So basically, I'm checking in Nani Gogo Khanyakude. Thank you, Kat, saying you look fabulous. Thank you so much. Caramel, Ari, Fire, Monk, Ari, Love. So I want to find out from Nene, what have you been doing for your full moon? How have you been embodying the divine feminine? Because with winter also being, the time of going into the depths where everything dies and an invitation to go deeper into ourselves, that is also something like a return to the womb where all creation is actually birthed from. So the winter in itself carries a deeply feminine energy, where in isiZulu, when we look at the gods and the goddesses, it is said to be season ya Nomoyi. Nomoyi is the goddess of the ocean. In Ifa, that would be a Maya. That is the season of the divine feminine, the goddess of the ocean, the giver of life and the taker. That what the ocean embodies. So, Nineyin Lebeni, and how have you been honoring your divine feminine, and how have you been embodying it? I'm keen to hear.
Is it the lashes for me?
Oh, thank you. For Valerie, you look gorgeous. Oh, thank you. It's the lashes for me. Ari Anapolis, day one of my period, red moon cycle. Yes, to the divine feminine. And what I'd like to actually mention about, the period and cycling with the moon is that it's such a beautiful connection that shows that you are in alignment as a woman with that feminine energy when you actually cycle with the moon, because that blood is a life force. It is the source of divinity, because in true essence, the only godlike being that exists in this world is the feminine, because the feminine is what is able to create life in the same way as what God or the Creator has done for all of us. Very fabulous, not to be off topic, the face beat say thank you. No, the face beat is part of. The face beat is definitely part of. So just I wanted to also, I won't lie, being share and to just get to put this out there, because a lot of times we become very, self-conscious around how we are perceived and how it is that people expect us to present ourselves. And I'm a very expressive person, and this whole exercise has excited me so much. It's gotten me to the point where I'm like, oh my God, I can actually do this. I can start to embody the femininity which I carry within me, with it actually reminding me of how beautiful it is to actually pay attention to yourself, how beautiful it is actually to tend to yourself, because that's what throughout the whole time when I was doing the face beat, Usually, as you all know, when I speak, my face is very animated. I use my hands and everything. But during the face beat, I had to sit and actually find a point of stillness where I was still speaking, but I was still and I was focused and I was not shifting away from that. I got an opportunity to have to pay attention to different features and aspects of myself that I never actually paid attention to. And that getting in touch with my inner self, getting in touch with just paying attention and being awakened and present in my own body has made me feel so connected and alive. Rory Sang says my breasts are full. Zims, I love you. Crisper Life says face beat, yes. Boy Tomato Preciosa says that's so beautiful to know. My period began synchronizing with the moon since April, I think. Towards a Gogo, we are aligned now. We should see the combos are communicating, and it's also an invitation now that your life force and your cycling is cycling with the full moon. It's then around what is it that you are going to do to honor that? And in honoring it, to honor, first thing that we do is to acknowledge. We acknowledge the divinity that is expressing itself in us. So that could just be in every full moon, having something, setting up maybe an altar or saying I'm going to take, a bath with Epsom salt or with seawater. That in itself is an acknowledgement. And as you bathe, to actually speak and meditate over the alignment and asking for that alignment, to also then go into aspects of your life where in the same way as your physical body is aligned with the natural cosmos, that can, in terms of everyday, your lived experience and the things that you do, can that energy also then create then for you to always then align and manifest also with alignment with what you want. And with the blood also signifying a release, you can also use that as a release for things that hold back your natural cycle in everyday living from being in the way within, which is in integrity with you, and not to say in a way that is in accordance with you, but in integrity with you. And when we speak of integrity, integrity is where self and spirit find a place of being parallel and walking side by side. Towards Abukoko. Ari, a crisper life. Ari, I wish you could see the smile on my face. Your glow is doing the most right now. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. At V33 and 88, Ari, I've been a crybaby today. It would make sense because earlier on I mentioned that with the full moon being the moon being a feminine energy, which governs also the bodies of water being a feminine energy, then it's an invitation then for you that perhaps when you connect to the celestial being, which is the moon, the aspect that is inviting for you to connect particularly to is that of the water and what the water represents. Because water is a reconciler, water is a cleanser, water is a connector, water is a purifier. So what in your life is the connection to you weeping like a baby, shedding those waters, either like the sweet rains or much like, rivers flowing? What is it within you that is asking for you to allow for it to be released in this full moon? And going forward, how can you then connect with the release ritual of water flowing like the tears are flowing in order to let go of certain holds or blockages or misalignments in your own life? Towards Gogo. Boy Tomato Preciosa, towards Gogo. Towards Gogo, to all of those joining, we're discussing super full moon rituals. And I've been sharing that my full moon rituals, as you all will notice, I've got a full face beat. So my challenge has been to embody the divine feminine that's within. The divine feminine then also being umzawe lengimthwasile mina, which is the feminine ancestor wakithi, mundu lo ngikuthi yena wasemandini. So I've got a strong connection with the water, but also being a person that is strongly connected also to the moon, because during the full moon, even without knowing, my body already starts to become energized. I will experience what others would say is insomnia, but it's not insomnia, because I understand that during the period of the full moon, there's an invitation for me to be able to then shift from sleeping at night and then being awake during the day to being more nocturnal, so that I can observe the phases of the moon. And in today's ritual, I decided, Gusi, how would it feel to actually embody and see what it is when, you know, some of the gorgeous divine feminine women and other feminine bodies, when they spend time beautifying themselves and adorning themselves in a way that celebrates the femininity. And I must say, Gutsi, wow, akusemnanzi. Malkia in Nairobi says, Toza Gogo, you look pink. Thank you. Thank you so much. Toza Gogo taking notes. We're here to share and we're here to discuss, you know, advice around what we can do in terms of ritualing, because ritualing is not something that is formalized. It's around connecting with the principality. If we understand that the moon energy, the moon is connected to the water, all of those are feminine energies, and they have to do with cycles of nature, because in our African calendar, the African calendar had 13 months and it was based on the cycling of the moons, which is why in our indigenous languages, when Isunguni, we speak of a month as Inyanga, which is also the moon, Inyanga, which is also umuntu othwasile, uyinyanga, healing, which is also ugunyanga. So how do you connect to all of those aspects? By embodying them in a way that is authentic to you and in a way that makes you feel as though I am connecting in a way that is comfortable for me. Start to explore the feminine body, because me having this face beat or anything even has nothing to do with whether or not I am a man, or I'm now going to start to say I am identifying as a woman, but it's around me recognizing that even in a masculine body, there is still feminine energy that is within me. And how can I tap and raise that vibration? Because naturally in my birth, I am naturally inclined to the masculine. And because we live to align, and alignment is finding a point of balance, how can I then tap into those parts of me which may not have expression through how I have been raised in my society, to always then embody that which my physical form does, and neglect the softer or even sometimes wild and feral feminine parts of myself. And this is just, you know, a ritual I really think I'm going to carry on going forward. We'll see at full moon. I do this. And A Crisper Life says, Gogo, I never feel off during full moon. I'm the most energetic. New moons are the ones that drain me. Towards Gogo, you and I are actually very much alike. There's such a similarity in you saying that during full moons you become energetic. For me, what is interesting also with new moons is that there is also a sort of a different kind of energy where I feel it is intense. It's not really draining. And it's because also, as Gogo Khanyakude, the embodiment also of it is that when it is new moon in the darkest night, the star that shines brightest in Umphakathi is actually the star, the northern star, which in our African languages is Ukhanyakude. So that is also a moment where I feel as though that is my season, that is also my time. Kat Leho _Leho says, I'm a very expressive person. I've said that about myself so many times recently. Today and tonight I let go of fear and step forward to the face of love. And with courage, I let my divine feminine breathe. I love the fact that you've used the word you allow for your divine feminine to breathe. Because in all honesty, we are in a society that's so orientated around stifling the feminine expression. And when we speak about the divine feminine expression, it's not around this contrived role or the otherness that womanhood has been placed into, because femininity has simply been locked into something that has to do with womanhood. But everything in its creation process must carry a feminine energy because it is birthed from a feminine energy. The world we're in currently is going through the pandemic we're going through, where we are struggling to breathe because of corona. We're going through the environmental crises because we've lived in a patriarchal capitalist society for so long. One that stifles, that's about competition, that's about dominance. And when there's competition and there's dominance, things become thick and enshrouded in each other, and then we're not able to breathe. So you just gently naming that invitation to allow for the divine feminine to breathe, for us to actually sit in the stillness of breath, because breath is the life source, umoya, it's the life essence. And what we need to sometimes do is to use the breath to connect to our higher selves, and also to connect to our deeper selves, the essence of who you are. Thank you so much, Gogo, for sharing that. Gogo Khanyakude, wow. Wow. B33_ says, thank you, Gogo, you're so right. I even went to stay in the bath full of water for an hour, and I felt better after that. What I love about all of you guys sharing is that often when we teach and we come on as Sangoma, as Dinyang, we will sort of have a prescriptive sort of ritual that is prescribed. The ritual that you need to do in order to be able to align with the full moon is X, Y, Z, and it is a generic. What I'm hearing really bubble out from everyone is around how intuitively the rituals we need to connect to around these celestial events or these lunar events, such as the full moon that we're going through, our intuitive self, our spiritual self, which is all-knowing and understands what we need to do, will communicate to us what ritual we need to do. And it's around also then starting to be mindful and paying attention to the things that intuitively we're led to do, the experiences that we have during these cosmic events, such as the full moon, such as the new moon, and looking into, do I start to sense that there's a way I feel in my physical self, in my physical space? And if there's something I'm feeling every full moon, what is it that I'm feeling in my physical self? Because that is a call to attention. Then you move and you go into your emotional space and you sense in and feel into that what am I feeling in my emotive space during this period of full moon? You then graduate and you go into even then your mental space and you sense and you feel into that. What am I feeling there? Then you would graduate and go into your energetic spaces and your auric spaces and do the very same test. As you'd really sense into all of those parts as to understand, Mine, during this period, what is this lunar cycle inviting for me to do? Because for other people, like UV33, it will be to connect with the water energy, to connect with the release, like she just shared, she was in the bath. For others, it will be starting to go on your period during the full moon. And that is an invitation then also then around to cycle, to connect with that lunar energy, to connect with the goddess energy, because the moon is also a goddess. It's embodied as a goddess. And to start to say that since I am also goddess, I am Father, Mother, God, and I create through this cycle, even when I am not going to be with child, what can I create in this place and call forth through this process of ritual cleansing of the red cycle? Preciosa says, I'm learning a lot. Togoza Gogo, I'm so glad to share, I'm so glad to teach. And I really am inviting everybody who's coming into the space, with this being a super moon, I'll repeat again, winter in our African indigenous we understand as a feminine time. It's the time of Unoboyi, the goddess of the ocean, the life giver and the life taker. In Ifa, that is Yemaya, the life giver and the life taker. The moon also then is a feminine body which governs the water. So there is a trinity or a dendera that's at play of the divine feminine. And with this being the brightest day in this winter, night, in this winter, leading up to the darkest day of the winter solstice, I'm just checking in with everybody as to how are you tapping in and going into that divine feminine energy and embodying it so that you can use then that light to be able to then call in the creational force, which is the feminine. Boitumelo Preciosa Towaza Gogo. I've had insomnia since Tuesday till today also. Towaza Gogo, try napping during the day and see how it will work out for you. Dao says Towaza Mkulu, I've been crying from Tuesday and short-tempered. I shared earlier on with somebody who said they've also been crying a lot, that, as I've mentioned, the moon controls the movements of the ocean, so it is a water energy. And when you are releasing and tears are flowing like the rivers, there's an invitation for you to connect with that feminine energy, but particularly with the water energy. So what is the water energy asking of you to release? And when you say that, it's followed by a short temper. What is it that you need for you to release in your space that causes for the seed of anger to still sit within you? Perhaps there are some past traumas that you have gone through that you are illuminated during the period of the full moon, because as I'm saying, it is when it is bright. So even that which is hidden will come out to the surface, and it's an invitation then to introspect and also to reflect in retrospect. That is there a pattern to it? What are the things that are said to be triggers to me? What triggers my temper? What are the things that I find myself starting to get hot by, whether or not it is through somebody's action, but whatever I come across during this period, and start to build a sort of an innate understanding and to not think into it, because this is an invitation to be mindful. When we speak about rituals, it's not a logical exercise or a rational exercise. We step outside of our heads and we step into our hearts. We step deeper into our guts as to what do I feel in my heart? What do I sense in my gut? What is my intuition speaking to me? Impulsively, where are my impulses leading me to? A sensory exercise, a feeling exercise, and always held in gentle compassion, because that then embodies the feminine energy, which is able to gently birth all life and carry on to continue the cycle of life. Toza Gogo is the name, says the moon has had a lot of impact. I get really moody and sad during full moons. Toza Gogo, as I've just mentioned, have you sat and gone through and checked in with yourself and then sat in stillness, but in gentle stillness, and allowed for yourself to really see what is it that is wanting to come out in the surface during the full moon that you may not necessarily be conscious of all the time? And LGX to Rosari, it's the Hennessy for me. Wow. So, yeah, but I'm coughing. So this Hennessy, the story is that I've been drinking it to help with the cough, because your things are indo. So whenever I give a bit of a cough, I take like a little sip. Toza to everybody joining. We're discussing supermoon rituals and what rituals everybody has been doing. At V33 says, I'm a water person, that I know. Even at the river, I feel so much alive. I would stay inside the water the whole day. I'm actually for 12 o'clock, so I can go and pray outside my balcony. Thank you so much also for mentioning that it's 12 o'clock. So I could stay on and carry on the live, because in how I've done my ritualing, I've done it because I understood the full moon when its brightest was at 39 minutes past 8. But for those wanting to connect at midnight, definitely feel free and don't feel held captive to stay here. If if you still have midnight ritualing to do. At Boy Tomato Preciosa says, Toza Gogo, I feel like you went live for me. All this information is a prayer answered for me. Toza Gogo, wow, siyatibongela. Ngiyabonga mangukuthi khanyisiwe, and the live was not planned. Everything was really so spontaneous. Katleho says, so affirming. Toza Gogo, siyabonga. Gogo is the name, says Dumelang Bahulu. Dumelang, I am him. Hello, Loverin. Thank you so much, guys. Please follow my friend, I am him. He is an amazing, 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 amazing makeup artist. He actually guided me through this face beat of the gods. And he also has a YouTube channel where I will feature on from time to time, where we just discuss and we get to hang out. And it's more of a social part of myself. So if you're keen to check out, it's a cute page. We have a conversation on there. Tozan Bogoku. Nani also who are on, then do not forget to also go into my page and go into the YouTube channel and follow the link and subscribe, because what I've also decided is I'll be doing a lot of lives on Instagram, and perhaps they won't necessarily always be planned. There will be those which are announced ahead of time and those which are spontaneous. But all of the lives that I do, I will always then save them, but then post them and upload them onto my YouTube channel for those who'd like to watch. Jozan Bokoko. At Mrs. P7248 says, Toza Koko, yesterday I saw my people from the water and I've been feeling very emotional and I'm so tired and just want to be alone. Toza Koko, it is beautiful because there's a song Yebanzawe that goes, Kue kurila wanzunze ile chombe kurila wanzunze ungeboni. So kurila wanzunze is basically the deity or indlondo yasemanzini, and the song basically says kurila wanzunze is at the waters, is at the rivers. Kurila wanzunze ungeboni, you won't see it. It's only in the depth. So when you have seen your bantu basemandini, kusho ukuthi bahlala nendlondlo yasemandini, and bona to get to them and to connect to them is in the depth. So vele it must come with kurila being tears, because it's an invitation to go deeper into yourself, because bona babuya le phansi emhlabathini and not just elwandle labangoma. Thokoza. Matilda Kutumela says, Thokoza Gogo. Towazani, everyone, we're discussing super full moon rituals. Just share what you've been going through in this full moon, what rituals you've been doing for yourself, and we can just all share, and then I'll be shedding some light on some questions, offering some guidance where I can. Towazani Bogogo. At Mrs. P says, I was told to light in Pepo and Ibaso, and I was also told to pour water from the river in an enamel cup and do everything outside. Toza Gogo, that's what I like. Ngiyalithanda mina idlodi leli specific, leli specifyako. Ngoba kusho ukuthi wena, you're with your ancestors being so specific. It means ukuthi they see ukuthi this one is sharp, this one is smart. We like this one. Awuthi simputhe on simtshele tinzabo. Also, Ati, you are such a whole mood, Gogo. Thank you. Toza Gogo, you guys are also such an amazing vibe. Miss Kambule says, Toza Gogo. Toza Gogo. Our Mrs. P says, you're making me cry. Gogo, my intention is not to necessarily make you cry. But it is a beautiful release. I've always believed to be that when the heart is full, the eyes overflow. And sometimes it's not necessarily because there's anything wrong that's going on. And mine, especially being mundulo twasile, I'll speak maybe a bit around the Twasa journey. There's a tweet that I put on, I tweeted a while back around saying that the Twasa journey is necessarily a traumatic one. And what I meant by necessarily a traumatic one is that the tears become the transport. They allow for us to transcend the binds of our physical time and space, the context within which we come from, the backgrounds within which we thought we had been defined by the world, by ourselves, and by our families. Through those tears, esikhala wona masiguqile siphahla, those tears esikhala wona madlodi atophakama, those tears lesikhala wona at the rivers, at the mountains, wonke lo mhlaba lona. That water that falls from our eyes is the very same water that has once flowed and was drank by our ancestors in time of antiquity from the very same ancestor. So that the ritual of crying is actually connecting to the original source. Because even if you go into a biblical sort of perspective, biblically, it's spoken of in the beginning there was darkness and water. When you go into Kemetic sciences, we speak about the primeval source or the primordial waters. Water and what water represents to our spirituality as African people is something that is sacred and has always been held in high regard. So we use that water to connect to the sacred alchemy of birthing because water is a life giver. Thokozani bogogo. Oh, nang nagogo sovuka amadloti la ngaphandle sakhuluma ngokuvuka amadloti. Oh wow, thokozani. Awuthi ngibone ukuthi kumbe utawuta ukutongivusela. If that's the case, I'll probably have to jump off the live or ngipose kancane. Thokozani bogogo, as I'm saying, just sharing, super full moon rituals, what we've been doing, what each one has done for their full moon rituals. Boitumelo Preciosa says, I'm drinking from the well of divine wisdom of the elders. Thanks for blessing me tonight. Togoza Gogo, it's an absolute pleasure. Togoza to everybody who's joining now. Tobega Mlambo Ati Asemhle. Togoza Gogo, this is me in my full moon ritualing, embodying the divine feminine, embodying Mzawe Wami, because I literally am such Mdwana Wabokoko. Most of the ancestors that I carry, I walk with, are queens, makosazana, bomage, bokoko, bo auntie, glabanye bantu. So I carry a lot of feminine energy, and as a way for me to embody it during this full moon and to actually celebrate the femininity that has been life-giving and gift-bearing to me, I decided to adorn myself in this way. Ngenze i-face beat ngibe muhle nyana nabo bajabule bogogo babone ukuthi hayi kodwana lethu alisabi akaticaphi ngathi uyatiqhenya ngathi. At Mrs. P says, you're special, Gogo. Your soul is pure and filled with amazing love. Toza Gogo. Like, now you're going to make me emotional. But I sort of expected ukuthi sitofika la. Mina bogogo madloti ngiyawathanda. And my journey at Lotini has not always been easy. Bantu labaningi nyalo find me as Gogo Khanyakude, somewhat of a public figure, if I could say it like that, in terms of in the Lozi space. But angizange ngaya kothwasa kwavele ngabuye ekhaya kwathi qi konke. It was really a teaching of the feminine ancestors that I walk with, where abanye bantu mainly masculine energies. Masculine energy is alpha, it is seeding, it's always active or in. Meaning carrying this feminine energy and these feminine ancestors, much like the creational process of the feminine, it takes time. The seed is planted and the seed must germinate and it must be buried and they must seem as though there is nothing going on. And then the life starts to form. And the life doesn't start to form in this week and then it comes out tomorrow. The birthing process is long, and it's one that requires for the person who's carrying the life that's being birthed to take care not just of themselves, but to take care of what they're carrying within. So mine in the first couple of years, it was very quiet, but I always had this innate understanding and this innate confidence ukuthi mina ngithwasele and bogogo bangitshela ukuthi bona bafuna kusebenza. There's nothing else that they want me to do, even in the face of friends and family telling me, yeah, fine, utwasile, you spent that year and 2 months there, and now you're carrying on and you're sitting at home. Why don't you go back to school? Why don't you pursue other interests? I stayed true and I believed in what bogogo bebangitshele kona, and it was a learning. Babathi, in fact, uyabeketela. I had to learn leso sibeketelo, and lana kungukuthi kwaqala ukuthi kube sekuyavuleka khona. Nakhona kwavuleka, much like when you give birth to a child. Akuzange lo mntwana wavela seyakwati ukukhuluma, seyakwati kuhamba, and being able to do all of that. It was constantly having to tend, and I still feel as though I am still in the infancy of turning to my gift, which to a lot of people may seem as though sengdondobele, sengkhulile, but mina understanding what it is that from the innate part of me is communicated. I can still see ukuthi nyalo sesiyakhona kuhamba, nyalo sesiyakhona kukhuluma, nyalo sesiyakhona kusho lo lesikudingako, maybe nokudendela loko naloko, but there's still an infancy that still needs to be, I still am going through in my gift, and I must carry on to embody that feminine patience and to nurture that which has naturally been gifted to me, because I walk with Bokoko, and the feminine energy is a nurturer of that which is naturally inclined to us. Tozan Bokoko. Ari, Toza Coco, Cindy says Toza Coco, absolutely love your energy. Toza Coco, Preciosa, are you feeling the energy all the way? Toza Coco. Tobeka says, please make more motivational, educational videos. I appreciate your wisdom. Toza Coco, I really must be honest. I am trying to put myself out there where I'm more actively curating spaces where I control the narrative of the content I put out there, and maybe being more frequently active. But what I really am trying to do is to also find a balance and an alignment, because outside of sitting like Nyalong, we can speak up until when spirit says segwanele. But still nango 3 ekseni kusayofuna ngivuke ngishaye isigubhu mase sidabula imbanzi yokusa uyakubona, and nakhona kunemathwasane kufuneka ngiwashayele. There's digulane that kufuneka ukuthi ngithende to bona. There's also then the educational programs that I do, and some of the other indigenous knowledge consultancy work that I do, which is connected but separate to Elodin. And then there's also just peopling, because nami I'm a person. I also want to people, so I don't want to necessarily carry a sort of Christ the Savior, or sort of I need to be doing this because people need to be getting this. Because when you're driven by a need, the need will always be there. The need has not started in our generation. The fact that there's always been healers and there will be healers carrying on in time and immemorial means that we must do that which we have been sent to do, and do it in full integrity. And in everything I do, I try and do it where I'm truly present, I'm truly engaged, and I can really say, I did it with integrity and I gave it my all, and not just doing it because there's a certain kind of demand. But that said, as I'm saying, I will definitely be putting out more stuff, much like if any of you have noticed, I've started my own YouTube channel, which you could all check out. It's in my Instagram page, and I've been putting out a lot of content, much like the lives I do now. I will also be posting exclusively on my YouTube channel for those who didn't watch in real time. Towazan Bokoko. Cindy says, resonating so deeply with this, having to surrender to the unknown is not a pleasant experience. It comes with so much trust. And beyond trust, because for me, I can trust my mother, I can trust my friend, I can trust, even this very phone or technology that I'm using to communicate because there's a tangible connection I have with it. But when it comes to spirit, when it comes to that which is umoya, which is basically a formless, shapeless sort of an expression, one that is intangible, trust is what gets you to be willing to go walk that path. But to actually surrender, I believe that it requires a higher form of trust, which then becomes faith, where you believe without needing to sort of have any sort of tangible connection or tangible evidence, but based on what you feel from the innermost part. For me, it's been an act of faith, and it's by faith where I walk, because even the rules of reason and logic that I had trusted, or the systems, or the ways of living that I trusted to be true and to be the way they are, when I started to ngena elotini, so many of those things were flipped upside down. People or things that I knew I could trust upon and rely upon suddenly went another way. And it's only through faith that didn't allow for me to become jaded and to say that perhaps the path that I'm on is not the path I'm going to be walking. Towazan Bokoko. And I am him says, city girls are up. Best know it. Best know it. And it's so interesting that you say city girls are up, because my mzawe, the Gogo that I have twasad, she was a city girl because she left home and went to the city. Girl was living in Rosebank back in those times and those things, living her best life, jivering, even Gogo Khanyakude naye begang girl. I have so many shkokis that didn't allow for time and space to define how they would celebrate and embody their own self-expression. It's Kylie. Thank you for joining. Tobegam Lambo. Love. Lord of all love. To everybody joining, just talking in my full moon rituals, what everybody has been doing, what you've been, catching up with and sort of doing to connect with the super moon and with the feminine energy of the full moon. And I've shared with those who were here before that the way I embodied it was through this beautiful face beat. I embodied a goddess. I really feel as though I'm glowing like a goddess. I am a whole Yemaya, a whole Nomoi, a whole Madina lady in my whole self. Mengwedi, it's one of those feelings, and that's an interesting way that I celebrated and I chose to connect and capture that feminine energy and give it expression and make it feel alive for me during this full moon. And everybody has also been sharing as to what in their own ways they have been connecting with the full moon, what it has evoked in terms of the emotional space, the physical space, and also what it is that they've been doing to sort of house and ground themselves in that energy so that it can be one that is a positive energy or an incremental energy. So I still invite everyone to please definitely share what rituals you've been doing, what you've been catching up with. Otherwise, if I'm because I really feed off of energy. I'm an energy-based person. I'm very empathic in how I do things. So when everybody's just, commenting, sharing what they're sharing and everything, I'm able to sort of feed off of the energy, shape the conversation, ma one two, and hold us, in sacred circle. But means and expect and then I started to become very self-conscious towards that Gogo. Katlego says I'm being reminded of being directed to Bakuranta 13, talking about love. Love is truthful, so is water and its transparency. Therefore, even to love is to give love life. Namaste. Yayibona? Ngiyakuthanda loku. Ngiyakuthanda loku. Oh my word. Listen, a gem. Jem, I'm going to read it one more time for everyone. Ati, I'm being reminded of being directed to Bakuranta 13, talking about love. Love is truthful, so is the water in its transparency. Therefore, even to love is to give life. Indeed. Hey. Ciao, guys. Add flower. I see you've sent through a request. I'm going to accept you. Nani man you can also request and come through. How Chauke, I don't know whether you've rescinded your request, but I had accepted. But if you could, please maybe send through your request again, and I will accept. I will accept it, and then we can chat. So man. Full moon. What has the moon been evoking inside you? What have you been sensing into your, in your emotional space, in your physical space, in your mental space, in your energetic space, in your auric space, even in your spiritual space, which is your sleep space? What is it that has been going on? What have you been interacting with? Is there anything that you feel you'd like to share? Maybe bounce out and see if maybe other people resonate with it. Gogo Shangase says Togozani Shangase. Ninjana. What I believe I'd like to really share, also, I see Mrs. P says wanted to share a video. I don't know how to bring it forth. I don't know whether you're saying you wanted to request to be in the video, but maybe that is what you're saying. So I've sent you an invite. If that's what you meant, Coco, then you just need to accept it, and then we can jump in and then stop it. Thokoza Coco.
Thokoza Gogo.
Unjani?
Ngiyaphila njani Gogo?
Ngiyaphila nami.
Thank you for sending a request. I feel so blessed.
Coco, it's an absolute pleasure.
Yes. Gogo, I just want to say thank you for everything that you do for us, the messages that you send, the videos. They are so enlightening. And I don't know, like today, I promise you, the makeup thingy. I actually went and ngazbuga, and then I took makeup and I took a whole lot of pictures. And I was like, I'm like, what's happening? Are you looking into my things? What's going on, Gogo?
I really don't know. I think in Indo it's a moyeni, and that's why I'm inviting for all of us. Many times we want to do full moon rituals to connect with the full moon. But siyofuna kumela Gogo Khanyakude ukuthi athi nge-full moon maybe slight amakhandlela lamhlophe siyenda so. But inside all of us, we always say we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Absolutely.
And even we then speak that we are created in the image of Source, of God and the goddesses. So it means divinity lives inside us. We are God, we are creator. So every time when there is an important cosmic event, one that has to do with the cycle of the world that we exist within, the creator within us will communicate to each and every one of us around what is it that particularly you must do to honor that event. And all it's about is setting up ways of honoring. Ngoba full moon phela akusi insebenzo angithi. It's not ukuthi wenza umsebenzi thize Logo isintu uyabona sinomlando yabo inkomo nembandela yakho.
Yeah.
But in our connection with how we connect to the rhythms and cycles of nature, how we connect with the moon and the stars, and even like the creational forces such as earth, fire, and wind, each and every one of those elements of divinity speak to us uniquely. And we must cultivate a culture of sharing, because what is important is the principle behind it, which all of us in our own individual ways are recognizing that something out of the ordinary is happening on this evening.
Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And thank you so much for this live. I feel ukuthi nje umoya nje uyakhuluma ngendlela yawo, and hey, you know what, yeah, I just, because bendithi ngiyolala mina bengithi hayi ngiyolala ngikhathele, you know, I'm like, hayi man, awuthi ngicheck Instagram mangithi ngibona you are live, I'm like, it's very late, and I'm like, no, angikho late, bekumuhle kanjani, something is going on here. You know, so yeah.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you so much for taking this time ukuthi ukhulume nami, ngiyabonga kakhulu.
Ngithokoza Gogo Makwande.
Nakuwe futhi Gogo Makwande kuwe futhi.
What I don't know how to do is how to release you.
I don't know how to release myself.
Oh no.
What?
Ngachafaza enye ethi end live. Manje sengikhiphe pinned topic onkosi yami.
Oh my gosh. Nami, when it comes to these things, I'm hopeless. I'm a hopeless case.
Okay, there we go. I found it.
Okay, cool.
Tozan Bokoko, as we're all just sharing full moon rituals, Cindy says, resonating so deeply with this, having to surrender to the unknown, pleasant experience. It comes with so much trust. Toza Koko. I think I'm reading that again. Oh, Cindy says, I've been feeling very emotional. I got into the tub earlier and just cried. It was a deep wailing that wouldn't stop. We live in such a society where we've placed so much negative connotations to the act of crying. Ganzi bengisashare ngisherile earlier on ukuthi ekuthwaseni ephehleni bakufundzisa ukuthi everything you want to achieve, you will achieve through tears. The tears are the transporter that will be what changes something from just being a word to actually being an act of alchemy. It changes your words to being spells that bind, promises that are then always then kept. Koko Shangas says, full moon feminine energy. Indeed, full moon feminine energy. I am loving all of it. At the real, says Toza Koko, with the super moon, I'm learning to go with the flow. I choose peace. Peace with thyself, accepting all the abundance of which exists in my spirit. I love that you've just shared that. So beautiful. And I think, as you've said, I choose peace. Peace with thyself and accepting all the abundance of which exists in my spirit. And as I spoke about, the invitation of this feminine time also being embodied by water, and water being a reconciler, you've just shared how this moon has illuminated or brought a certain sort of an enlightenment that has allowed for you to reconcile the fact of perhaps you have seen yourself as someone who is lacking, who needs to reach outside to be able to be filled. But you have made peace with the fact that you were born whole and all you need is within yourself and is abundantly gifted to you. Towards Koko that hayi namuhla shemi nenda mawololo namhla just chat yayisemnanzi. Edgar Maloba says, happiest full moon to all. May we all connect and receive. Happy full moon to all. May we all connect and receive. Boko petroleum said 5%. Also, we have been at it for The longest but the shortest time. And mhlambe labanye benu ngifuna kuvuka and ngiyayathi ukuthi i-shirt iyabambana ngoba imnanzi i-shirt yabogogo. Hi guys, kumunati ngoba dimong kumnanzi edlotini, especially when you get to learn that the biggest gift of edlotini is moving from the point where you feel alone and isolated, where you feel as though a lot of the lived experiences you go through are unique and are only happening to you. But once you step past the first gift that you're gifted is a sense of community. When we hold these sacred circles and somebody shares something, how I thought that I was alone going through this. I thought this was something that was only me who was experiencing it. And in that, we move from a point of isolation to a point of connection, which is why Sindu said was about ubuntu, ubuntu ngebantu. So it's important to cultivate spaces where we can openly share, where it's not around a right share or a right answer or what is correct or what is smart or logical, but simply sharing with open, trust and compassion that our lived experiences, because each and every one of our lived experiences is valid and they lay a teaching lesson that someone out there may be needing to receive only from you. So I am very glad that in this role that Madloti have given me, that not only do I serve as the teacher, because in so many of the things that you share with me, it affirms so much. I mean, mangakhuluma iqiniso Mrs. P njengoba asho naye ukuthi uvele wayifaka i-makeup wayenda ini. It has just been like, ngisanicocela ngisanitshela ukuthi this is my full moon ritual, because it is literally like off the cuff. It was an intuitive thing, but somebody else somewhere in the world also went through the same thing. So I can trust that because we are all connected to source. So we are in community when we step into the spiritual space. That when somebody else is also going through that, is like yebo. Exactly, in order to connect with the feminine energy, in order to connect with the moon energy, in order to connect with the goddess energy. Ngiyatibongela shemine bogogo, ngiyajabula kakhulu kuhlale ngibanani. And cabanga ukuthi bathi ibodla itishiyelane ngesintu. So ayidle itishiyelane, perhaps I will jump in and we can hang out unexpectedly, but I will bind myself to this journey of us in winter with going through the super full moon. Next week it's going to be then the winter solstice, which is the darkest day. So njalo nge-solstice dobe sesiyayendadela lolo kufune ukuthi siyendetele wona, and then enjoy lolo sifuna ku-enjoya wona sicoce. Gogo Khanyakude says, I pulled my makeup bag out, tempted to wear it, but got lazy. Hi, Gogo. Hi, Gusi Angujachi. Nyakutada. And in Gukutada, ngoba songe, we're here to be gentle reminders to each other, to trust that intuitive self, because that's the divine spark charging inside you, saying, Zibi, faka leyo makeup. And you know what, so I know next time my figure you understand that it's not a random thought, but it's actually the divine, it's creator, it's so speaking to you, because there's been so many of us who have shared having the very same desire, embodying the goddess energy, embodying the divine feminine by adorning and beautifying ourselves. Asipemeni Gogo. Oh wow. I've been kunini solo ngilibambile lana. Yo sengifuna ukubhema Cobo. Thokoza Gogo.
Thokoza mkhulu, thokozani.
Njani?
Ngiyaphila, ninjani?
Nami ngiyaphila she.
Angikuboni though wena, it's circling.
How? I can see you.
Oh.
I
But
don't.
I love the feminine moon energy, super full moon. Oh yes, now I can see you. Oh, you look gorgeous. You look
Can I quickly
absolutely
dash you go and get my
amazing.
charger so the phone doesn't betray us? 2 seconds.
Okay, no problem. Let me put a filter on because I don't have any makeup. I can't even do that, can I? I can, I think. Wait, how? Oh, I don't know. I'll leave it as it is.
I am back.
I don't even know how to find a filter on my phone. Because I'm thinking I need to look good, but now I don't even know how to
I'm
do
thinking
that.
I need to look good. I'm so
I'm like
glad.
already even in my PJs.
Tohoza Gogo, I'm back.
Togoza. Yo, what a wild ride with this super full moon. I don't know what you can, because the thing is, it's like endings, tower moments, and it's just crazy. You know, there's like so many tower moments where things are just falling apart these days. I don't know how you're finding it.
Tohoza Gogo, you know, for me, I think because I'm such an egoless person, and that doesn't mean that I don't have my own desires and how I'd like my life to be. But ngatinikela edlotini ukuthi lokushaya ukutosha, and if it must burn, I don't necessarily need to always understand why things are happening in that moment for me to have a positive, connection to them. So often when things are happening, like you're mentioning that, towers are falling, what I would be more interested in is just going into that experience and allowing for that experience and being like, oh, let me see what, when all of these towers have fallen, what it actually will mean to me.
Well, that's the thing. And I find that a lot of people are resisting these tower moments. I'm personally not. I'm fine. I embrace my tower moments because I know that things have to break for something else to be rebuilt. So I always embrace my tower moments personally, but they can be hard, can't they? For a lot of people who don't understand. Because you must, like, I only accepted my calling, say, 4 years ago. And I graduated only in 2019. So it hasn't been very long since I've actually accepted and been in the journey. So kumina, like, amateur moments is so witty. Why? I thought I'm Josie Lane. Why am I having time?
Do you know what? I think one thing that I won't deny is that the mind is the mind. And what I always do, Elodini, is I will ask the why, but as soon as I've asked the why, I'm like, oh, well, I won't know now. I will only know when the time is right for me to know, or if I even need to understand. Because what I've learned, Mina, the most through the years of being Mundwe Madloti is stepping outside of the God delusion that sometimes coming from a religious background gives us, that there's always a reason, a grand reason behind everything that happens to us. Sometimes things happen because it's part of the cycle of life, and we must all have that experience in our lives. It's part of the human condition of kuba muntu. So lesinye isikhathi udova buhlungu, and akusingukuthi lo buhlungu is necessarily a pivotal sort of moment of pain, but it's just a necessary reminder of ukuthi kusemhlabeni lana umuntu, and njengoba umuntu funeke uboke uve buhlungu, and that's the only why that there is. And if sometimes we place so much pressure also on our ancestors to come with a grand explanation that We put you through that pain because we were preparing you to go into what, this idea of grandiosity. And that's when you struggle the most for me with tower moments, is when you don't realize, Khori, you are a vessel. You are supposed to be a feel. Phela kuba muntu wemadlozi, it's not a thought process, it's not a cognitive process. Sishajwa livalo. Lelo livalo lelo liqhamuka then with feelings. It's a feeling process. So sometimes the world, the creators just like, lona soba blunt nyana. Awuthi simbuyisede ukuthi atoba sensitized to being a feeling being, so that muntu makaqhamuka kuwe nenkinga that maybe you've never experienced, but because you know what it feels like to be frustrated and to be at a point where you feel like, oh my God, I could just die, you are able to be compassionate to that person.
Oh my gosh, you're absolutely right. That's how I've been looking at them. Uguti, they keep me grounded. Uguti, even though you are still human and you must experience all human things. You have been, but just because usukhethe ukuhamba nedlozi, it doesn't mean now izinto will be, it's a miraculous pill. But now your life is now smooth sailing. No, you still got to experience things for you to grow, because that's how we grow.
And I love that, Gogo, that you're mentioning that, because it also reminds me, Guzi, outside of us having to grow and to have to go through these things and it being something that sensitizes us, it's also that it's just a commonplace thing of Guzi, as I was saying, Guzi kusemhlabeni lana. And little velo that I think sometimes we think our calling is going to take us away from having to feel the human experience. Yeah. But we actually become more heightened and awake, because when you meet a person and from the onset you'll be like, something is off with this person, and then after that you'll go and you'll be like, but and then you toba yourself and you don't form an opinion or an action on it, but you still carry on to observe. And as you're observing, you'll be like, yeah, we had to see the thing that I think is off about this one is maybe the spirituality. Like our scuba is always connecting to what our blockages inside people. So our perceptions and our feelings are very sharp. And when you don't actually constantly work on that, Madloti will then sharpen that instrument by all of these towers all the time to be like, hi, wena ngathi ufuna kulala.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's sad because I'm finding, or I'm observing that a lot of people are feeling, you know, like abantu that are actually going through their calling initially right now. They feeling, a lot of them, like what they're going through will be solved, and they won't go through these things after they, you know they have a calling. That's no doubt. They, but they just feeling that most of them, once I do this, then I will have no more problems. And it's like, guys, do you know how many problems we have? We feel everything after that. Everything.
I really think that it's sometimes also maybe the running away from the divinity of what idlozi means, because we've disconnected with our ancestral for so long as an African people, that now that sonke sesiyavuka once again and it's becoming mainstream, then we start to have these narratives of Guzi, you twasa to heal the generation, to break generational curses, and that is true. But the act of Gutwasa does not end ngokuyiphuza uyiphalaze or ukuphothula or in whatever way you are initiated in, because Gutwasa is initiation. And when sebenzisa language, initiation is starting. You are initiating a certain action, but the action is still to come. So when they say you are initiated as Sangoma, it means that which Sangoma is supposed to tend to will now start umsebenzi uyoqala ukumele wena mase ufike ekhaya. And loyo msebenzi is doing what? Is ukuba umuntu ebantwini. Because sibongelela sisho njalo sithi siyayibonga imbanzi leyangivuse ekufeni leyangenda muntu ebantwini. And ukuba muntu ebantwini means you feel outside of just that which is confined to you, but you feel on a communal level.
Yeah, I hear you, Mkhulu, but you know, Kumina, what you've just said is, it's conflicting a little bit. When I went into a Petweni, I was like, it's just so that I just do my generational things. I don't have to be Sangoma. I don't have to be a Sangoma. It's just for my own family thing. But I know I was delusional because I know I was told from a young age that that's not that I needed to be a Sangoma. I know I was told from a young age. But you know, when I heard that you don't necessarily twice have to be a Sangoma, sometimes you can twice just to fix your own family lineage. I was like, yeah, that's where I'm in. I'm there. You know, I'm in that category. I instantly chose the category that I wanted to go in, but unfortunately, you don't choose it as well.
And it's interesting because that view of healing your own family things, I think it's because we take a look at it from a thinking process, and when we think, it makes sense in the way that we want it, that serves the ego. But when we actually experience, when abathi funeke ulaphe generational case yakini, if when abagini they wronged me bakithi bekhona lo thakathako ekhayini, and ngoba wathakatha umuntu wakithi, and that person wakithi then has now had sort of come back as umdliwa in your family, or a spirit that then comes as a generational sort of debt that is there to cause havoc because of things, past transgressions, then ukulapha logo, if mina ngiqhamuka endumbeni yakho and ngiqulwa amadodi yakithi and uyangithwasisa, you're not doing it for me, you're doing it for your family.
And hence I always pick up that whoever I've helped, somehow I find that it's helped me somehow. It's been so strange. I mean, every single person that I've come across to help in my practice in the year that I've been, or okay, I've been practicing longer than a year, but you know, just not knowing because I was just that waterfall chaser, you know. I'm just that waterfall spirit girl. So when it's like mina kanjani, no, like, are you sure? And the worst part is I would come across like Izangoma that would come to me and say this, and I'd be like, Thokoza Gogo, no, I'm not, no. But I was just a pure waterfall chaser, you know. So when I heard I was breaking generation curses, I didn't think it was really, and you know, be a real some, you know, like, you know, you think undercover and your life continues.
That is true. But it's beautiful because what I can sense is the laughing at yourself. It shows Guti you've really embodied and accepted Guti umdwana, because children do things that are funny that even they themselves laugh at. And that's the beauty about how our ancestors will make us understand in the most gentle and compassionate way. And only if we stubbornly hold on to the person we thought we were before does it then move from being gentle to seeming like it's a hardship.
Yeah, well, mine was hard, actually. Mine was very hard. Mine was so hard, but it's been so gentle, mind you, ever since I accepted myself. Because when I only accepted myself after Ngipotulile even. And I still didn't, I accepted, but it was like so that I'm okay, you know, so that life carries on. But my okay was, yeah, you okay, but you are a Sangoma. That's the reality of your okayness. It's like, okay, now, and then I had to do another fresh acceptance. So we'll say, okay, Shab, this is what it is.
So, Gogo. Hayi Shem, uqhubeke uphilise Shem bantu and nabo baphile and be the waterfall chaser because you are an amazing healer. Your energy is just amazing.
Yeah, but about the full moon, how are you grounding yourself? Have you spoken about that? You know what I'm doing? I'm going camping at a waterfall.
Yes, yes to all of that. Yes to all of that. Because literally what I did today is I woke up, I had errands to do, so I fasted up until around close to when the full moon was. At 8, during the day I dressed up and I looked really cute. Got back, hung out with my best friend. We shot some content for his channel, and I decided that we must do the makeup thing. I was like, bring your whole makeup bag. And as we were going through the process and everything, I realized that today has been that day of self-care, tending to myself, but tending to, the feminine part that loves to adorn, that loves to, really nurture. And I nurtured myself and I connected with myself. And that for me has been a very beautiful, natural sort of ritual that I've done. Because if I'm honest, I'm starting to have a sort of a disconnect with overstated sort of rituals. Like when I have to sit and plan or curate a certain ritual, I find that in the space where I'm in now, it doesn't really resonate and vibrate. There's an invitation to do things intuitively. There's an invitation to just go with the flow, as somebody else was mentioning, that they've realized that they've made peace and they've understood that you must go with the flow.
Yeah. Going with the flow is so, so important. But a lot of people, I find that they don't understand what it means. Going with the flow is your flow, because your flow and my flow is not the same, but the energies are the same that we get from, the solar. The solar energies are exactly the same, but because we're not the same purposes as individuals, our flow will not be the same.
So what's up, Gogo? That is absolutely, absolutely true, because a place for everything and everything in its place.
Diversity. But the general flow I find also is that it is a real time for endings. Like we're on the 5th universal year this year, right? 2021 is the 5th universal year, and number 5 is the number for endings. It's a number for things to, it's letting go and then for new things to start. Endings and new beginnings, basically. And I think those are the struggles that abantu abaningi, or us in our human form, are really, really struggling with, because when endings happen, they're not easy. I mean, nobody really likes change. As much as we know, there's always change. Change is the only constant, but we don't like it because it's uncomfortable, because we don't know what's coming. We don't know what's next. So we need to maybe just trust a bit more. I don't know.
I really love that. And what I'm sensing is that there's an invitation for you to perhaps share that more with people, because that is something that is really close to you, and you have such a deep lived experience and innate understanding around it. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing you maybe hopping in on a live or sharing even just a post where you start to create the space to hold this sort of narrative as well.
Yeah, I'm slowly building up on that on my page. I just joined Instagram during the lockdown. I wasn't on social media before. So I'm getting used to things.
Baby
And I've also been
steps.
growing and getting sakoile as well, because you know it was koyelwa.
Yeah, bro.
So yeah, I went through an intense period of koya actually last year, but it was good.
And thank you so much for jumping on and sharing.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Happy full moon, everybody. It's the last full moon of this year, so enjoy it. Manifest, manifest, manifest.
Toza Gogo.
So was I. All the best, everybody. Much love.
Tozani Cat says, these circles are this is what spirit means to me moment, a reflection of the image of God that we are each made of, unique to us and divinely specifically made for us. Toza Gogo. That is so amazing. The wordplay, unique to us and divinely specifically made for us. There's such a beautiful communal energy in the way that you phrase it, also with the allowance for individuation, because in spirituality there isn't individuality but individuation, and they may sound like they're the same things, but they are not. But I'm not here to go into semantics and language, but I love. At Chicken's Farm says you don't need makeup, Gogo. You're stunning indeed. Sihle Mayango says, yo, everything fell apart in the beginning of the month. I'm just letting it happen now. It's out of control. Asasho njalo Gogo vele with this full moon energy, there's a lot of towers collapsing and things falling apart. And what I'd like to maybe ask from you, Sihle, is that if with you just letting it happen, what is it that you're starting to recognize as something that is positive or incremental or necessary in all of these things just falling apart towards a Gogo? And G-Code says, yet I thought I was the only one being attacked. Kuyagoishwa on many levels, and Go doesn't mean that if somebody is going through a heightened goal that labanye are going through their own goal, because the full moon energies come through with an invitation for each and every one of us, but the level within which it vibrates is one that will be in authenticity with what is needed in our own space. So some people will go through minor goal, others through major goal, dependent on what you need in order to align and to awaken to what the present moment is inviting and asking of you in that current time and space. At Caustic Potash says, Kamaku Gogo educators. Toza Preciosa says, Uvalo, Uvalo Lebangoma Gogo. Mali too intense. If you are with someone and space can be held for you, allow to let that valo to lead you to do what it needs to do, because in valo lebangoma leyabiga, valo lebangoma is a call to action, and malibida lona funeka usabele because thina simobabiza usabele. So sabela kulelo livalo so that it can speak what it is that is hidden. Bomavila kuvaliwe bathi khona ukuthi bakhanyisele la kungukuthi kumnyama khona, bakwembulele la kungukuthi kufihleke khona. Thokozani. Kamoma Lava says, so true, Gogo. We learn through tough moments and get to understand each other going through similar struggles, and our struggles groom and grow us. Appreciate the tough times. They can also awaken us. Tough times are amazing. Tough times are amazing. Good indo that you receive lula that you will truly value. And that's one thing around Edlotini is that sometimes, you know, Gobela wami would say ukuthi lembanzi lena ifana nenhlandi iyashelela mawungayibambi ucine iyaphunyuka ibese iyabaleka ubuyele emandini. And if you've ever tried to hold a fish out of water in both hands, you will know how difficult that is. And I love, the practical teaching around how we should actually orientate ourselves to the lousy space, because labanye bantu sicabanga ukuthi sitela edlotini sitophumula, sitela edlotini to maybe find the Garden of Eden, to find utopia, you know, to find that Kanzi, yes, there are a lot of those moments, but we must always come back down to earth and connect with what is collectively happening in our conscious space as humanity. And as humanity, there's a lot of strife, there's a lot of struggle, there are a lot of things which need tending to. And those of us who are called and called in our own ways to come and be agents of change, we must then be moved to action by the difficulties in our lives, which make us then be not able to sit in comfort with how things currently are, that it's seeking for change in our current situations or our current hardships. We learn then how to help others to also then emulate the very same thing. Tozan Katleho says, I'm imagining us being the beings witnessing that moment of collision of the Big Bang Theory, only seeing the destruction and missing out on the creation that is Earth and all that it would birth. Duality towards a Gogo, and I love the idea of duality. And I also believe, for me, I believe more in the idea of a trinity, because duality is sort of the dominant system that we exist in, you know, the binary of good and evil, right and wrong, you know, male and female, and that can only tear and divide us. But in Sinvu, what I've learned to love the most about Sinvu and this African or the spiritual space, the indigenous space, is that it is not a binary system of either or where it polarizes, where one is light, one is dark, but it's a space where things are both and. So it embodies and is whole. It means that as people, we are neither light workers or agents of the dark, but we are everything. And it's around then honoring that which is true for you in this incarnation to do. Edwin Pelo says, I mean, Teroza Gogo, I mean, Jenkins Zafe Klega. Katlego says, so good. Yebo, Mrs. P says, this is so profound. Towazan Bokoko. Centric Dream says, Towaza Gogo, give thanks for this conversation. Towaza Gogo, it's always a pleasure. Sihle Mayango says, Iplungi change my kids. Yay! Guys, Bokoko. I mean, to this day, I can't go to anybody's Ndwaso without crying, and crying like Mhlaba uyabhubha. It's the end of the world. And the pain and that I experience at every single initiation ceremony is one that is necessary, because it keeps in Kumbuta. I mean, there's also a song that we sing, which is a song of gratitude, but it says, Ngiyayikhalela impanzi yami, ibuhlungu impanzi yami, impanzi yababa wami. And buhlungu bempanzi is what defines us. Buhlungu bempanzi is what makes us know that we are constantly in the act of creation, and we are not at a point where things are static. Because if things remained the way that they were and nothing changed, then there would not be any hardship, there would not be any strife, but there also would not be any sort of life within that. Because even dead things that have died, carry on to live because they transform and they decompose. And in each of the phase that they go into, it is a struggle to go from, being whole to decomposition. But that is a sign of life. The process of creation, the process of life, which is symbolized, by the full moon, symbolized by the divine feminine, symbolized by the water energy, which is connected to the divine, constantly needs us to be in action and in motion, where there is giving and taking of life. And that giving and taking, as people in our lived experience, will leave us having something that we have to feel about it, because spirituality is about feeling and it's about being. it's not necessarily about utility. Tozan Jenkins says, happy full moon. Gogo, happy full moon to you too. Preciosa says, I was so happy when this live started. I think my heart is full because I just began to feel emotional again out of the blue. Toza Gogo, earlier on that when the heart is full, the eyes overflow. Kulungile, and it's a beautiful thing. Allow for yourself to shed, allow for yourself to release, allow for yourself to cleanse, allow for yourself to reconcile, allow for yourself to purify, allow for yourself to actually be awakened and present to what is evoking within you, because somebody mentioned that water is transparent. So allow for those feelings and to be transparent within you and to show through the act of shedding, through the act of tears, while you connect to the divine feminine body, which is water, aligning with that which is the moon energy. Towards J.K. Nison's farm says, like the attacks were just way too much. Hey! If I happen to lose something better happened and a lot of my prayers are being answered, I'm just sitting in denial because how you go through havoc and something good happens. Towards Gogo, I'm glad that you're recognizing that there are incremental or positive outcomes to the loss and the shedding that you're going through. Katlego says, Lo Gogo, the distinctions made by semantics may be slight, but they make all the difference. Thank you for welcoming us in your space. A beautiful ending, start to a beautiful day. Towards Gogo, Towozani. Pindile Twala says, Towards Gogo, the past few weeks of this month, I've been going through so much rejection. My past has been draining me also. I'm struggling with letting go and moving on. Towards Gogo. So perhaps as an invitation on this full moon, connect with the aspect of the moon or the divinity of the moon that is embodied by the creational force, which is water, and perhaps particularly with that which would be a river energy which flows in a set direction, because rivers may take centuries and centuries, but they shape mountains, they move mountains, and they clear a path for themselves. So hold yourself in compassion and try and emulate the water, try and channel that creational force, try and call upon that creational force, which is water, and see then how it can start to cleanse and can start to move away the blockages that you're feeling inside. Towards Mrs. P says, towards Gogo, I forgot to mention that after coming back from the river last week, my periods went AWOL. Is this something normal? Of course, I mean, Mzawe stays in our sacral chakra. Mzawe is charged, is the water energy. Mzawe is also charged for women. It's with your womb and with your fertility. So if when uyemandini and Mzawe wako then was pleased or wajabula, then Zunza or your Josie cannot come out of the water and be like, hey, I'm happy. But because we are our ancestors and they are carried in our DNA, in our blood, even those aspects of divinity, such as Tinzunza, when we go and we interact, they vibrate. The language that spirit speaks is a vibrational one. And in that vibration, it may then have triggered for you to cycle and to flow like the water was flowing. So it is something that is normal. Also in my practice with a lot of people that have a strong water affinity, often on the day that they're supposed to go to rituals or to do rituals, they will go on their cycle or coming back from rituals. That is a physical manifestation and a connector to the water energy. At United says, Kulu, can I please call you after the live? Toza, you can perhaps give me a call in the morning, but I generally prefer that we communicate, whether you send me a voice note and then I can respond on voice note, because my time is always up and up. Pindi Letwala says, Toza Gogo. Sihle Biaga says, cleansing tomorrow, let me pray and sleep. Good night. Nesisa Linda says, yo, I had a weird dream yesterday seeing Inzunza and people drowning. Thokoza Gogo, wow. Kusaqeda kumenshina yona wachabuka wena wakhuluma nawe ngeliphupho lezunza. And generally to those maybe that have been around on my lives, I don't often speak around the topic of Inzunza or go into depth of it. I will mention it where it's necessary, but as a passing by through. So I would have a lot to say and there's things going on. But what I would ask of you, Gogo, is perhaps that dream and what you're seeing to us not to discuss it on a public platform, because Inzunza is one that lives in the depths, lives in the depths, not even emalwandle, and because of that there's a certain sacredness and a reverence that we must show to it. Towoza. Mrs. P says, thank you, Gogo, you're amazing. Thank you, Gogo, you're amazing too. Dawu 9110 says, what does it mean if I find water under my bed? As I shared with Mrs. P, that her going to the river and then starting to go on a cycle is a physical manifestation and a connector to Zawe, which is a water body, Idiki also, which is a water body. Same with you, Dawu. If this water does not have any clear source but is under your bed, then it is an affirmer that you are connected to those of the water, and there's an invitation that is being asked of you to connect with the water energy. And what that invitation could be, and how you would go about finding out is connecting to your ancestor. And if when you find that you have trouble connecting off of your own, then what you would do then is then you would seek maybe somebody who would help as a medium to connect, which would be then going to then seek out Inyanga that can help connect you with that water divinity. Tozan. Mokoko, my sinuses are really acting up. Now they are really the worst. I've had such an amazing time. Oh, this is my pet rabbit. Kabalake Kanyes. Naye so funa attention yami. In fact, akafuni attention yami. Kanyes so funa ukuthi ngimshiye ukuthi atokhona ukuthi alale. Because it's just like, look at the time. I'm used to being in the dark now. Tash Africa Ari, a little bunny, yes, a little bunny. And it's so strange because, say, I've had Kayezi now for about 3 weeks and about two months, but solo petite, solo coolly. Mrs. P says, thank you so much for an amazing evening. Love you always. Cindy So Julia says, a little bunny. Tao says, I'm in the Middle East. It's rough. Tohoza Gogo. Okay. Ngicela ukuthi send me a voice note, like I said. Send me a voice note because there's some sort of clarity that I'm sensing around then you saying you're finding water laphayana and what you've just shared now. So maybe ngakhona ukuthi ngikundlulisele because I like to honor sensitive topics and holding them in sacred space where it's not just going to be a pepenini in what we have to discuss. Malaba says, thanks, Gogo. This life has explained so much that I went through today. Towards a Gogo, it's an absolute pleasure. Akukhanyeni nonke bogogo. Kube kuhle, kube mhlophe. Sito catch up next round. And I really can't get over this face. I can't get over this face. I'll probably wake up tomorrow and I'll be like, oh, I actually did that. But yo, le face lena injablisile. I'm looking at myself and I'm seeing me. This is the best full moon ritual I've done for myself. Nozipho Noktula says, I'm late. Ngosi yami. Sicoce Gogo Ncisi Armes Capsule. But you're not late, because as I've said to everybody, all of the lives that I do now going forward, I'll be uploading on my YouTube channel. So the bio is on my face, I mean, the link is on my bio. You can go into my page and then follow the link, and you can subscribe to my channel, because I will be uploading the video probably immediately as soon as I get off here. And in future, that's what I'll be doing with all of them. With all of the live videos, is that I'll be uploading them onto my YouTube channel alongside with other exclusive YouTube content only. So feel free to check it out and to like, click, subscribe, and do all of those things. Tozanbo Gogo. I don't know whether it is what is going. Gogo Agwande Kanye Ginonge. Sitawubonana next time masihlangana. But Precious says so much. Thank you so much, Gogo. Makhanye ugini. Niyongoma sesiyabonga. Love listening to your teachings. Ngiyatibongela nami Gogo Khanyakude. Mabuza mshengu shabalala lo phanaku. Fonga la amavuselo wakadla betabutfuke kwakho wathemba igadi. Ngiyatibongela shem salukwathi lesimbovana lelanga singamshoneli. Makungukuthi unikhanyisele namhla Gogo, ngibonge nami ngoba nginami wachamuka kimi wangivuse ekufeni wathatha ungikhanyisela, wabe soyangipha lesiphiwo sokuthi nami lokukhanya kwakhe ngibe sekuyadlulisa kulabanye. Thokozani bogogo. Blessed super full moon and happy ritualing and manifesting.